Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Ruach HaKodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is, it's a response, Happy Saturnalia Day, you damn pagans. Just a couple of words I want to say, regarding the video the Elder Apostle Tahar put up. And our Lord's will let it be edifying. As you already know, Elder Apostle Tahar's video he put up, I actually put it in the description box. I'm pretty sure most of you brothers already watched this, but whoever didn't, you can go to the description box of this video and click on it. It's the first link on there. And I just wanted to do like a quick response, and then I have a couple of pages also of some information I want to just kind of breeze through to show you a couple of other things, and those are also in the description box. And just an observation I made, the main scripture that we go to in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, to prove this. Now all of a sudden, these wacky-tacky Christians are jumping up all over the place, talking about that's not talking about so-called Christmas and blah, 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 the sun, moon, the stars, But anyway, let's get into it. Like I said, this is the Apostles' video. The first page I have is here. It's called Christianity.com. And it gives you a timeline, basically, the history of man, which goes back 5,000, almost 6,000 years now. We're, reaching, if we're not at the 6,000 mark, I guess we're getting close to it. But it's been about 5,000 plus years since the beginning of the creation. Any person in a right mind that has done any serious studies, world history, so on and so forth, biblical, they know that that's actually correct. Not no millions of years ago, billions of years ago, that bullshit. Even the historian Eustace Mullins, who passed away, he even said, they asked him, like, how far does his research go back? He said his research goes back to first of all, he said it goes back to the Library of Congress. And he says his research goes back about 5,000 years. Because that's pretty much how far, time goes back to the beginning of time. All right. So it says the first recorded celebration of Christmas. And I was watching Spanish live show last night, the brothers out there in LA, and the brother Yawanathan had mentioned about I believe he said the December 25th celebration of Christmas, so-called Christmas. And he said he had mentioned 98 AD, but I didn't really find any information on that. But he also mentioned 3-something AD. Which is when they first started using June 25th. Now, keep in mind, June 25th is the beginning of winter, and this is when they say that the birth of the Lord, was brought up. So in the winter. So just keep that in mind. So let's see what we got here. It says today is Christmas Day, Christ Mass. Now they try to say that the word Mass means something different. The word Mass means death. But they try to, Esau, when they do something, you got to remember that they have something called cunningly devised fables. So what they do is they'll make up something, but then they have to make up a whole lot of other intricacies to it, so that if you do any research, you've run into those stumbling blocks and potholes, and you'll get stuck and then just revert right back to what you were doing from the beginning. It says, for the first 300 years of Christianity, it wasn't so. When was Christmas first celebrated? In an old list of Roman bishops compiled in AD 354, these words appear for AD 336. 25th December, Natus Christus in Bethlehem, Judea. December 25th, the Messiah born in Bethlehem, Judea. This day, December 25th, 336, which is AD, is the first recorded celebration of so-called Christmas. And that's among the Roman Catholic Church. Now, the origins of this goes way further back, all the way to Babylon, Sumeria, Egypt, Assyria, all those different empires. It was a pagan customs. And if you really was to do some real deep research on this, which Elder Bishop Tazadakba is the expert on it, you can find different reliefs and, wall carvings, and carvings on stone that still depict, the Assyrians, the Babylonians giving reverence to the evergreen tree, which is the so-called Christmas tree. It wasn't being called Christmas back then. That's why I said, well, no, the origins only goes back but this far. Yeah, because the word Christmas didn't appear back then. It was under the name of Saturnalia, which is the same thing as so-called Christmas, which is pretty much nothing more than the worship of the sun. The Egyptians did it around the same time, December 21st, December 22nd. It was a period of time when the sun was lowest, that because the word solstice means sun stands still, and it was said that the sun would die for 3 days and then come back on the fourth day or something along those lines, So it goes all the way back to the beginning. It just wasn't being called Christmas. It says, for the first 300 years of the church's existence, birthdays were not given much emphasis, not even the birth of the Messiah. The day on which a saint died was considered more significant than his or her birth, as it ushered him or her into the kingdom of heaven. The anointed baptism received more attention than his birthday in the January 6th Feast of Epiphany. Was Jesus born, or so-called Jesus, born on December 25th, which his name is Yahushua in the Hebrew. No one knows for sure on what day Yahushua or the Messiah was born, which, according to the scriptures, he was born on on or around the Passover time. It doesn't say, and the Messiah was born this day, but we know that by reading the scriptures. Let's go real quick to the book of Jeremiah. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Jeremiah. I got Jeremiah on the brain. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 2. Because remember, when the Passover was celebrated how many times a year? It was celebrated once a year, right? So every year, Israel was commanded to go there. And I want you to keep that in mind also. Keep in mind the winter, and also keep in mind that. This is a return to Nazareth, Luke 2:39. And when they had performed all things according to the law of the Lord, they returned into Galilee to their own city, Nazareth. This is dealing with when they circumcised Yahushua. They brought him to the temple. Mary was offered up the sacrifices for her uncleanness, so she could become clean again, so on and so forth, which shows you that Joseph actually popped Mary, because that was the law concerning a woman when she conceived children, whether it was male or female. And the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of the Most High was upon him. It says, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover, which we know is around the springtime, right? And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. So that means that around this time, Yahushua was 12 years old, and they used to go every year, because at this time when he was born, right? They said that he was born December 25th, correct? So if that's the case, how come if he was born December 25th, how come when they brought him to the temple to get circumcised, how come it was around the time of the Passover? Because this was around the time of the Passover. So it goes on to say, now it's because this is when they went to they were in Nazareth, but they returned from Nazareth down to Jerusalem, because they had to do for the child according to the custom of the law. It says, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Yahushua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. Right, because you had a whole bunch of people that would, walk, because it was that time of year. All right. So going back to this, no one knows for sure on what day the Messiah was born. Yahushua was born. Dionysius Exiguus, a 6th century monk who was the first to date all of history from December 25th, the year of our Lord 1. Other traditions gave dates as early as mid-November or as late as March. And really, more so, this is more correct because he was born closer, to the Passover, and it makes sense that he was born on the Passover because he was the Passover lamb. And so it would make sense that he would be born on the Passover and crucified on the Passover. Keep that in mind. How did Christmas come to be celebrated on December 25th? Cultures around the Mediterranean across Europe observe feasts on or around December 25th, marking the winter solstice. The Jews had a festival of lights, which is called Hanukkah. Germans had a Yule festival, which the word Yule, when you research it, means child, but there was a custom during the Saturnalia feast where they would the Yule would represent a phallic symbol, and they would burn it. That was a representation of the Yule, which was the phallic symbol of life, which when a man puts his penis in a woman's vagina, and ejaculates, that sperm becomes a child in the woman's womb once it hits the egg. And there was a whole bunch of debauchery, going on with that Saturnalia. It was 12 days of nothing but freakism, drunken orgies, and all type of wickedness. And what they did was incorporated it into, the so-called religion of Christianity under the orders of Constantine, which was a pagan himself. He was a sun worshiper. And Saturnalia is the worship of the sun. So is Christmas. It's nothing but the worship of the sun. And pretty much under, his mother asked him, to do it, and he did it. He made Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire, which it went from the pagan Roman Empire to the so-called Christian Roman Empire. And pretty much what it was is at that time, he couldn't, he had to appease the pagans plus the Christians because you needed more followers. So in order to get more followers, how convenient is it to combine the two and to have, and to please both the pagans and the Christians so that he can make more money? It was a master plan, man. It says Celtic legends connected the solstice with Balder, the Scandinavian sun god who was struck down by a mistletoe arrow. And when you have the mistletoe, when a man and a woman get under the mistletoe, you're supposed to kiss. Well, this is the origins of the mistletoe. It was a myth, a Scandinavian myth of the sun god who was struck down by a mistletoe arrow. And this is why they said that the sun died for 3 days, the actual sun. And this is why when certain people do research and they find out about this, oh, that means that the Messiah, there really wasn't no Messiah. That was a myth because, that goes back. No, there was a Messiah because when was it taught that Yahushua was going to be crucified? From what point? When? At what point was the prophecy that the Lord was going to be crucified? Yeah. Let's go real quick to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1. This is 1 Peter 1 and 18. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers. And this is what's happening. These fables that have been passed on from generation to generation, by these different so-called holidays. That's the vain conversation. These are the corruptible things, and we were not redeemed with corruptible things as such. It says, but with the precious blood of Yahushua, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundations of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. So Yahushua was, before the world was even created, it was already prophesied that he was going to come on the earth and shed his blood. So this is a tradition that's been carried on, from the beginning of the world. Because, the prophets spoke about Yahushua. They prophesied. And one of the main prophecies that they were speaking about was what? Yahushua. When you read further up in this chapter, it tells you in verse 10, it says, of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the grace that should come unto you. So all of this was written before the foundations of the earth. And this is one of the main prophecies that the prophets were speaking about, was the coming of the Messiah and the glory that would come after he was crucified. It says, searching what manner of time the Spirit of Yahushua, which was in them, did signify when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Yahushua and the glory that should follow. You see? So this is what it was talking about. So all the way from the beginning of the earth, this was taught. You know? So this is something that's been passed on generation to generation. And these nations knew about it. So you don't think they're going to mimic certain things? Their sacrifices, their priesthood, these different things that they do. That's what they do. They mimic. So now let's go back to Luke. I'm sorry, where were we at before that? We finished with Luke. We're done with that. All right, so let's go back to this. It says, at the pagan festival of Saturnalia, Romans feasted and gave gifts to the poor. Drinking was closely connected with these pagan feasts. At some point, a Christian bishop may have adopted the day to keep his people from indulging in old pagan festivals. So it was a drinking thing. And this is why the Apostle Paul mentioned this in Romans 13. And you could go to many different scriptures to prove the point. You know? But I just like going to this one because it nails it. Romans 3 and 13. It says, let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. And when you look up these words, this is why it's important to look up your words. When you look up these words, when you go to rioting, you have the word komos. Then you have a revel, carousal. A revel is like a party, you know? Like you have Mardi Gras. You have, Carnival, I believe it's called, out there in the islands. Brothers can correct me on that. I'm not an expert at it, but I know it's something along those lines. But you have Mardi Gras, which is Fat Tuesday, which is pretty much Fat Tuesday, where you get the word lipos for fat, grease. You know, that's where you would indulge in different foods and pretty much get drunk and do some freak shit. When you research, these different pagan philosophies and different, or should I say pagan holidays, that's all they did. And when you go to like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and things like that, people, what they do is they get together, have a party, get drunk, and do some bullshit. Bacchanalia, yep, the water, brother, Bacchanalia, yep. And then there's one carnival, right, Bacchanalia, which is the same thing. The water, brothers, the water. Really appreciate that. So when you look up that word, rioting, it says a nocturnal, which means at night, and riotous procession. Now, don't they have like the different, like in Puerto Rico, they have something called parandas. Those of you brothers that speak Spanish and from Puerto Rico, I'm not sure if this is called the same thing in a different, Latin American, so-called Latin American countries, which are really corporations, companies. They have something called a paranda, which would be like a group of people that will come to your house, and they would play music and sing, pretty much like that. And that's pretty much what they were doing. So it says a procession of half-drunken and frolicsome fellows who after supper parade through the streets with torches and music in honor of Bacchus or some other deity, like the brother put Dionysia or Dionysus. It says, and sing and play before houses of male and female friends, hence used generally of feasts and drinking parties that are portrayed till late at night and indulge in revelry. All right, which revelry is nothing more than partying. All right, so going back, we look up the next word that was writing. Drunkenness pretty much means to drink. It's methe, intoxication, drunkenness, which drunkenness and eating food are synonymous with these so-called holidays. All right, chambering. This is another one. Koite. It says a place for lying down, resting, sleeping in. A bed, couch, the marriage bed of adultery, which that's what goes on. Cohabitation, whether lawful or unlawful. Sexual intercourse. And when you look this Saturnalia thing up, there was a lot of orgies going on. There was a lot of homosexual, lesbian, pedophilia. Because that, man, I was reading something, it's like, wow, pedophilia, which I'm not surprised, but it's like wow. You also had zoophilia, which was the having sex with animals. So they were doing all that shit, man. The so-called 12 days of Christmas, they would sacrifice, either human or animal. Every day, they would sacrifice either human or animal. They would have these orgies. And also what they would do is they would allow children to participate in that, which was what? Pedophilia. A lot of freakism, man. And these people are still partying, and keeping that satanic pagan holiday. And then they wonder why shit, is all fucked up for them. All right, so let's go back. I believe there was one more. Chambering and wantonness. Right. And wantonness is undisciplined. Aseglia, which means unbridled lust, right? So it's being undisciplined. Excess, licentiousness, lasciviousness, wantonness, outrageousness, shamelessness, insolence, right? Because it's a shame. See, when people get drunk, they do acts that are shameful, but they're so intoxicated and their senses are not, all there, that they do shit. The next day, like, fuck, man, what the hell did I do? Let's see. That's pretty much it. And here it says filthy. So let's go back. Let's go back to this. It says, historian William J. Teague offers a different view. However, when a consensus arises in the church to celebrate the Messiah's conception on March 25th, it was reasonable to celebrate his birth 9 months later, which they're trying to say that he was conceived around the Passover, and then 9 months later was around the time of so-called Christmas. That's their reasoning, which is bullshit. And I want to get into that to the winter thing, but let's see what else we got. Origins of Christmas traditions. These are the Christmas traditions, not the origins of Christmas going back to Saturnalia. It's really much this. Pretty much this is going into the origins of Christmas, so-called Christmas, in the Christian churches, because it's a Christianity.com site. Many of the pagan customs became associated with Christmas. Christian stories replaced the heathen tales. Well, he is going into it. But they don't really go further back. It says, but the practice hung on. Candles continued to be lit. Kissing under the mistletoe remained common in the Scandinavian countries. But over the years, gift exchanges became connected with the name of St. Nicholas. With St. Nicholas, when you look it up, and Elder Bishop Tazadakba is the expert, he was a so-called black man that used to give gifts. Now, I'm not sure if he was giving gifts around the so-called Christmas, because this was around that time, where they were keeping this practice, It says, a real but legendary figure of 4th century Lycia, which notice they didn't say he was a so-called black man, which he was a so-called black man, because everything with Esau, whatever happens in history, everybody's white. Where the hell did the so-called black people and Latino people and the rest of the people of color in the world come from? Did they just appear on the planet once you conquered America? Get the fuck out of here. A province of Asia, a charitable man, he threw gifts into homes, right? Because he was well-to-do, and he was a so-called black man, a so-called Negro, so you could understand. Not an African, not a Hamite. Around the 13th century, Christians added one of the most pleasant touches of all to Christmas celebration when they began to sing Christmas carols. And remember, we just read, what did we read about chambering? What did we read about chambering? Let's go back to it. I'm sorry, not chambering, rioting. Chambering was sexual indulgence. Comos, a nocturnal and riotous procession of half-drunken and frolicsome fellows who after supper parade through the streets with torches and music in honor of Bacchus or some other deity and sing and play before houses of male and female friends. See? And that's what we're reading here. So all of those pagan customs were incorporated into Christianity. But what they did, they put the Jesus spin on it. Jesus, baby, Jesus. Inside joke. But they put that Jesus juice spin on it, and that's where you get that, that Christmas gin and juice. So you can, so you can understand. It says no one is sure just when the Christmas tree came into the picture, or as far as Christianity is concerned. Because when you've seen Elder Apostle Tahar's video, he went into the origins of that. It goes all the way back to Assyria. It goes all the way back to Babylon. It goes all the way back to Egypt and those different pagan religions. I'm not sure if you type in the evergreen tree in Assyrian art or the evergreen tree in Babylonian art. Matter of fact, let's see. Evergreen tree. Just bear with me 1 second. In Babylonian art. Let's see what we can find. All right. Okay, what's this? What's this? What's this? Yeah, brothers. Wait a minute. What is that? Could that be a tree? And who's that? It's not an Edomite, Doc. That's stone relief of Sargon standing before a tree of life. Which that's what they worship the evergreen tree as, because it never died. It stayed green all year round. And they worshipped it, and the sun god they worshipped so that the so-called sun god, can come back again to life through spring, because winter was they were the hardest months to get through. Let's see what else we can find. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. What's this? Hold it now. Tree, spirit, wisdom. Mesopotamia. This is Mesopotamia. What do they have there? The tree. Let's see if we visit. What happens? Right there, Mesopotamia. The tree of life is common motif throughout Mesopotamian mythology. Now, I don't know if they're going to mention anything about the Christmas tree, but this is what they do, man. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, wait a minute. What's that? What's this? A stele of two deities making an offering to a tree. Now, if that doesn't look like a mini-me Christmas tree, the evergreen tree. Let's see what else we can find. Look at that. What's this? Zoroaster and the sacred cypress tree of immortality at Persepolis. Looks like an evergreen tree to me, even though they say it's a cypress tree. It's in the same family. Look at that. Don't you have trees like that? Which is a little different, the cypress tree is a little different from the evergreen tree, but it's the same of the same family, of the same genus. And I'm not an expert in botany. All right, let's see what else we can find. See, this is what they call investigations. This is how you investigate. Let's see what else. We just saw this one, which so far that's the most revealing one. And we saw the other one with the little mini tree that they had in there. But these are relief. These are actual wall carvings and art of, the Assyrians and Babylonians, so on and so forth. This ain't, some actual painting that they painted in these times. So that's pretty much all they're going to show. Let's see, Sumerian. Pretty much the same thing. They're going to probably show the same pictures, because it all goes back to those same origins. But yet they said, no, that's not a pagan thing. The Christmas tree is not pagan. Christmas is not pagan. Although it's all celebrated around the same time. Saturnalia. What's this? All right. All right. So enough of that. Let's go back. Let's see what else we could find. It originated in Germany. That's still in the Christmas tree. The 8th century English missionary Saint Boniface, apostle to Germany, is supposed to have held up evergreen as a symbol of the everlasting Messiah. By the end of the 16th century, Christmas tree were common in Germany. Some say Luther cut the first, took it home, and decked it with candles to represent the stars. When the German court came to England, the Christmas tree came with them, and he said that. And then they had the thing of when Luther set that up. That's dealing with from the Lutheran Church. When he set that up, that he looked through the tree, and he saw the stars in the heavens, and it reminded him of the Messiah, and that's a whole bunch of bullshit, man. Let's see. Puritans forbade Christmas, considering it too pagan. Governor Bradford actually threatened New Englanders with work, jail, or fines if they were caught observing Christmas. It says in 1843 in Victoria, England, Charles Dickens published his novelette, A Christmas Carol. It became one of the most popular short works of fiction ever penned, although the book is more a work of sentiment than of Christianity. It captures something of the Christmas spirit. The tight-fisted grump Ebenezer Scrooge, which when you look up the word Ebenezer, which is in the scriptures, is Iban Izar, which is help of the rock or rock of help, who exclaimed humbug at the mention of Christmas, is contrasted with generous merrymakers such as his nephew Fred with a struggling Fred, are you real, Fred? Inside joke. And with the struggling poor symbolized by Bob Cratchit, Scratchit, man, and Tiny Tim. The book's appeal to good works and charitable contributions virtually defines Christmas in English-speaking lands. And you know, that's pretty much it on that. Whatever the ins and outs of Christmas, we are still unwrapping the gift of God's Son. So you see, they're going into the pagan origins, but then they're still giving credence to so-called the Most High Son, which is an actual factual. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preaches another Jesus, and that's what they talk about, they're giving reverence to another Jesus, another Messiah, whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit which ye have not received, or another gospel which you have not accepted, you might well bear with him. When you jump down to the 13th verse, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of the Messiah. And that's why they use the English/Latin/Greek name Christ or Christos. You know? And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Because you see how they tell you it's a pagan origin, but then they flip it. Whatever, you know, it comes from, you know, we're all still giving thanks to God's Son. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. Now, I have another. I'm not going to be able to get to it, but I have another page here, you know, history of Christmas. You know, I put it in the description box. You could go through here. They go through some stuff like Saturnalia and Christmas. I believe they give you the two correlations between it. And I want to hold on to this because I want to get something real quick. So now we go to Jeremiah 10, a satire on idolatry. Now, all right, let's go. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. So you other heathens, you Edomites, you Moabites, you Hamites, you other nations, you can worship that. That's yours to worship. Saturnalia, Dagon, the fish god, you know, Dionysus, Bacchus, you know, whatever you can worship that. That's for you, you know. But, O house of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, because the heathen are practicing those pagan customs, which go all the way back to the beginning of time, when man was first placed upon the earth, which they worship that. They worship the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, the flowers, the bees, the birds, so on and so forth. That's for them. It says, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs, see, these are customs of the people are vain. So the custom of these nations are vain. They're wicked. They're evil. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with an axe. Is that not what they do with the Christmas tree? But then you have clowns like that dude that was on Vocab Malone's platform talking about, well, no, it's not really no scholar. And I want to show you something. They deck it with silver and with gold, right? Don't they have songs like that? Christmas carols, deck the halls with so whatever, fa la 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 la, however that shit goes. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, and that it move not, right? And that's how they did it in the ancient world. Today you have what? A fucking goddamn tripod. You know, that they put it in, they screw it together so that the tree doesn't fall. Now, if the tree was actually the tree of life, if it's real, why would it need, a tripod to hold it up? Why can't it just stand up on its own? Deck itself, right? They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good, right? And there was a whole history or myth behind it, that was, Nimrod that was dead, and something along the lines that you have to put gifts underneath it, or else Nimrod will come and get you, or the spirit of Nimrod will come and get you. Something along those lines. Like I said, I'm not an expert at Saturnalia. I just know a few things about it. Elder Bishop Tazadakba, he goes into it. He knows a lot more about that history than I do. I just know enough to get through with what the scriptures say. All right, now I want to show you something. Reading this, you see that that's the same way that they do it. When they bring the tree to Rockefeller Center, is the tree already there? No, they cut it down somewhere and bring it there. And then what do they do when they do it? They bring it there. They set it up so that it don't move, and then they deck it with lights and with silver and silver tinsel, gold tinsel, whatever that's called. And they deck it. They put a star on the top and everything. Right. Elder Yashua put this up. It says, Isaiah 40:19, the workman melteth the graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold and casteth silver chain. Yeah, that's dealing with the different idols. Right? Now, I want to show you something, because that guy from Vocab Malone's platform, he said that no scholar spoke about that, and it's true. Now, this guy here, David Guzik, he's supposed to be a reputable, a scholar, right? So you would think that if anybody, he's one of the modern scholars that's still around, supposed to be a reputable guy, you'd think he will go into it, right? It's first he uses Yahweh, which that's not the Most High's name, and the idols of the nations. The Most High's name is Yahweh. It says the greatness of Yahweh is supposed to be over all the idols. It says Jeremiah 10:1-5, the custom of the decorated tree made an idol. And you go into this is a reading of the verse. And he goes into, don't learn the way of the Gentiles. Don't learn the way of the Gentiles. Do not be dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the custom, now we're going to go here. For the customs of the people are futile, which is, KJV says vain. For one cuts a tree from the forest. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it will not topple. Jeremiah described the pagan custom of cutting a tree, setting it in a special place, decorating it. Is that not what you do for so-called Christmas? And worshiping it. Because that's what they're doing. They worship it. They putting the gifts underneath it. It says they worship. It said the worship of the tree is indicated by the warning, do not be afraid of them. In the sense that one would give reverence to a pagan idol. This is what he says. Jeremiah mocked the idolatry of Judah, which Jake is still doing to this day. It says, especially as it imitated the idolatry of the surrounding nations, which is, that's what they did it. That's where Jake got it from. Similar passages mocking the idolatry of the heathen are found in Isaiah 40:18-20 and Isaiah 44:9-20. Yet, it is difficult to read the description and condemnation of an ancient pagan custom and not immediately think of the custom of the Christmas tree as practiced in the modern Christian world. So he's saying that when you read this, you could only think of the Christmas and the way that they set up the tree and they decorated and all that, right? But then in the same breath, he said, if based on the passage like this, a Christian would be convinced that they should not have a Christmas tree or even celebrate Christmas, then they should stand in that conviction. It is good to remember what Paul wrote. Whatever is not from faith is sin. Nevertheless, there are many reasons to believe that despite some similarities, here goes a spin. Here goes spin Dr. Scott over here. Spin Dr. David Guzik or spin Dr. Guzik. The differences are even greater and do not prohibit the modern custom of Christmas trees. So he's saying that it's okay for Christians to worship that because it's not, talking about a Christmas tree. And this is why a lot of jakes, especially, are going to die because if they do any reading, if they read something like this, oh, well, the scholar, he said it was okay because it's not really, it's similar to it, but it's not really. All right. Jeremiah spoke regarding the custom of the Gentiles, and in the modern world, the appropriate celebration of Christmas is an expression of belief in the Most High and His Son, not a custom of unbelievers. So wait a minute. How is Christmas a custom of believing in the Most High and not in the Son? Where is that in the scriptures? Where in the scriptures does it say to believe in Christmas? If you believe in Christmas and you celebrate Christmas, you put up the Christmas tree and the mistletoes and the gifts under the tree, that means that you believe in the Most High and His Son. Because a lot of what they're saying is that they're saying that what they're saying is that the memory, this whole thing of Christmas is to commemorate or to remember the birth of Yahushai. All right, let me read a little more and then we're going to get another point. Jeremiah spoke of believers borrowing customs of unbelievers in the modern world. When an unbeliever has a Christmas tree, it is a case of unbelievers borrowing the custom of believers. Fuck out of here, man. Christmas tree has nothing to do with the scriptures. But now, what did Yahushai say? How are we supposed to remember the Lord, Yahushua? Is there any scripture where it says, and thus shall you remember my birthday? Don't forget to remember my birthday. Remember, I was born December 25th. Make sure when my birthday comes around, you put up a Christmas tree and you deck it with lights and everything, in commemoration of me. Did he say that? No. Did the wise men from the east bring a Christmas tree and plant it next to Yahushua when they gave him his gifts? No. Let's go to Matthew real quick before I get the other point. Matthew 26:13. This is how we're supposed to remember Yahushua. Matthew 26:13. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this woman have done be told for a memorial of her. And this is why we read this every time we do the Passover service. We will read this scripture in commemoration to what Mary Magdalene did for the Lord, Yahushua. So when we jump down to the last Passover, verse 20, the Lord's Supper instituted, Matthew 26:26. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to his disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body, right? And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them saying, drink ye all of it. So the bread represented Yahushua's body. The cup of wine, it says, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many of Israel for the remission of sins, right? But I say unto you, I will not henceforth, but I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom, right? Now let's go to, because I thought it was in here, but it's not. Let's go to, I believe that's 1 Corinthians. Right. 1 Corinthians 11:23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you. Now let's see. That the Lord, let's see that the Apostle Paul said, put a Christmas tree up, and deck it, and so in remembrance of the Lord and the commemoration of his birth. That the Lord Yahushua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it, and he said, take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. So what are we supposed to be doing in remembrance of the Lord? The Passover. That's how we remember the Lord. Passover, not no goddamn Christmas tree. The scriptures don't say to celebrate the Lord's birth. No one celebrates their birth. Job cursed the day he was born. After the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as oft as you drink it, in remembrance of me. So what are we supposed to be doing in remembrance of the Lord? Keeping the Passover. When you eat the bread, the unleavened bread, when you drink the wine, that's in remembrance of the Lord. Because Yahushua is the Passover now. That's what we do in remembrance of the Lord. Not put up no goddamn Christmas tree with a bunch of lights and stuff and say that that's in remembrance of the Lord, of the Heavenly Father's Son. But you have a clown like this that calls him, he got the nerve to call himself a scholar. David Guzik got him nerve to call himself a scholar and say that that's not, Jeremiah is not talking about the Christmas tree. Yeah, back then it wasn't being called the Christmas tree. But later on, when Christianity came into play and the pagan customs were entered into the religion of Christianity, it was called a Christmas tree. It was called Christmas and it was called a Christmas tree. I don't even want to read no more of this crap. Now, another point to make is that Christmas is celebrated in the middle of winter, right? It says, is Christmas really the day that they say Jesus here, Yahushua was born? I don't really want to read any of this because I gotta roll out. But what I wanted to make, the point I wanted to make is this is in the winter. It's cold. Now we have high holy days that come in the spring, and we have high holy days that come, different times of the year. We have high holy days that come in the spring, in the different times of the year. What were the main high holy days that we were commanded to come to Jerusalem once a year under? It was the Passover, the Feast of First Fruits, and the Feast of Tabernacles. None of those feasts fall in the winter, in the dead of winter, because it's a hard trek to trek all those people from all those different lands during winter seasons. So when Yahushua was born, he was not born in the dead of winter or in the winter, beginning of winter. There wouldn't be, because look, it says Deuteronomy 16:16, 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy power in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, which is the Passover, which is in spring, and in the feast of weeks, which is about 40 days after the Passover, which would be somewhere like in the summer, early summer or so, or maybe a little further up. And then the Feast of Tabernacles was what? Which is at the very beginning of, the ending of summer into the beginning of fall. It says, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Right. So you didn't have people migrating in the winter all the way from them different lands to come to Jerusalem to keep any feast. Because we had feasts during the wintertime. You had Hanukkah. You had the Feast of Purim. How come the Lord didn't command Israel to come from those different lands for every high holy day? Because it would be too hard to have all those people travel during the winter season. That's why Yahushua said to the people, he said, pray ye that your flight be not in the winter. Meaning that 70 AD didn't take place in the winter. Because it's hard to travel in winter seasons with the snow and the cold and all of that. All right, and I think that was the last point that I was going to make. on this. But you know, when you get a chance, like I said, I put both of these in the description box. You could read these. You know, when you get a chance, I put Elder Pastor's video in the description box. You know, when you get a chance, you know, check it out if you haven't already. And a bunch of brothers done, you know, stuff like this. You know. All right, brothers. I gotta get motivating because I gotta roll up out of here to go meet up with the apostles and the bishop to go down to camp. Oh boy. Anyway, with that, you know, Lord's will, you brothers and your few sisters have been edified, the sincere ones. And to the next time I say shalom.